Hello, welcome to this episode of Gimme Shelter Security in Azure. Today we're going to talk a little bit about network security. We're not going to go real deep and wide into network security, but we're going to review some of the services that I talked about in my Breaking Down the Networking Change series that I did a couple months back. So I recommend that you go back and look at that series of services. We talked quite a bit around different networking tools and services within Azure and covered the secure ways to secure those services within Azure as well. So we're going to cover a little bit around, cover at a high level the different services here, and then you can take that to looking at the episodes in Breaking Down the Networking Chains to gain more information around each of these services. But we're really just going to cover one slide or so on many different services here today, and we'll do a quick demo on network security groups. My name is Dwayne Natwick, and I am a cloud training architect lead for Opsagility. I'm also a Microsoft Azure MVP and Microsoft certified trainer and regional lead on that program. And you can follow me on the social media links provided on this slide. So as I was saying, we're going to cover quite a few topics here in this episode, but at a very high level. I covered each and every one of these in my Breaking Down the Networking Change series that I did a couple months back, and those are all available on my YouTube channel. So I welcome you to go back, and if you want to have a little bit more detail around each one of these topics, go back and review one of those episodes. I have another, I have a 10 to 30 minute episode on probably each one of these services, if not these, a few of these services mixed together as well. But there's probably 3 or 4 episodes in my Breaking Down the Networking Chains that cover all of these topics. The first of which we're going to talk about today is the network security groups. And one of the nice things about network security groups is it's a free service within your virtual network that's tied to a network card for your virtual machine and your network interface and subnet that you can provide security rules to allow and deny traffic. And the key thing around this is that by default, without turning on an Azure firewall or any other third-party virtual appliance, you have this service for free, and you can, when you're doing development within applications and the environment, you can utilize network security groups to create rules that allow or disallow traffic, and gives you kind of that baseline level of security within your network and your virtual network to protect that environment at a minimum, and also allows you to test without utilizing an expensive firewall or virtual firewall appliance within your virtual network and within your Azure environment. Like I said, when you're developing applications and things of that nature, it also gives you then those rules that you need to create on your firewall as well to allow traffic to traverse within your network and outside of your network. Network security groups are independent of the subnet and the network card, and they evaluate that traffic independently there. Again, it's allow rules. You can add and delete rules as you see fit. There's a 3 default inbound and 3 default outbound rules, and you can just put a lower priority rule in there that allows traffic. By default, your highest level rule is denying all, and then it builds from there. But it allows you then to troubleshoot for effective security rules within your environment. Application security groups are very similar to network security groups, but they are at a higher level. They're utilizing, HTTP, HTTPS, different levels of, higher up the application layer of the OSI model in terms of creating those different rules rather than ports and IP addresses that network security groups work on. Again, it defines those rules that control the traffic flow. So network security groups and application security groups at their foundation do essentially the same thing. It's just whether you're utilizing it as a from an application standpoint, or whether it's from a transport level standpoint. So those are the key differentiators between the two, but both of them are doing allow and deny rules within your environment. And really creating an application security group is done when you want to create a rule that's an ASG rule. It's done within the same area as an NSG. Service endpoints are a little bit different. This is really creating a dedicated connection from what could be your on-premises network right to, say, an Azure storage account or an Azure database. So provides then that specific endpoint connection that say an on-premises network might need within, or a virtual machine might need to a storage account within two different virtual networks and things like that within the environment. They utilize then the Microsoft backbone and provide a lot less management overhead than creating a virtual network gateway between those connections. So it creates then that point-to-point type connection for those specific service endpoints. Private links are very similar, where it can create a private connectivity to services within Azure, and it provides the no public internet access and a private Microsoft network connection as well. A little bit different than, say, an express route, where these private links are just that integration, again, for on-premises and peered networks for two different PaaS services. So if you think about having a SQL database within Azure and an application that's running on premises, you can utilize the Azure private link for connection to that database, or even for offloading maybe archive database data to SQL database that isn't active on your on-premises database, but still might need access on a more limited basis. You can utilize the SQL PaaS services as that archival location and then have that connection through a private link for access to that information. So again, another way to have a secure pathway and connection from your on-premises environment to your Azure services, to specific Azure services, without needing to create a virtual network gateway. And that brings us to different application gateways. So we have now different gateways that we can also utilize within the Azure environment, and those can provide the traffic routing capabilities within the environment to route traffic. Application gateways work again at that HTTPS level rather than at IP levels to route traffic to your different services within Azure, and based on what request is coming in, takes those and looks at what that request is, what rule is based on that request to go to a virtual machine, a scale set, app service, in terms of what you have set up within your backend pool. So so here we're routing traffic. We're determining where the best route is for that traffic and taking that to the proper services that a user might need. You can see here we're looking at different types of users. Might be public users as well as private users going to different applications as well. Might be going to your intranet services versus your public website and things like that. That application firewall, that application gateway, can take that front end information and where that's coming from, who that's coming from, and then take those rules and route that traffic. And web application firewalls then work with the application gateway to protect our services. And we talked last week with SQL databases. We were talking about certain vulnerability assessments that are based on OWASP top 10 services like SQL injection and brute force attacks. You can set a web application firewall to also identify those potential OWASP core rules that are based on that OWASP top 10 as well, and protect those services. And you can see, a web application firewall works with the Azure Application Gateway, Azure Front Door, and it's in preview for working on a content delivery network connection as well. And Azure Front Door, I kind of compare an Azure Front Door to kind of a hybrid between an application gateway and a traffic manager, because this is looking at global route. It's also working at a global level as well. So we're looking at layer 7 in the OSI model, very high up there at an application layer, and global routing, where it's based on the URL-based routing and your session for multi-site routing across, globally, to provide that traffic management, then to route traffic to your service that's closest to you. Very similar to even like a CDN would do, but this is at a secure level, utilize and can also put that application layer security of a WAF within there also. And you can see the different protocol support of HTTP traffic as well as IPv6, and it can then provide again that accelerated application performance on a global level. So if you're utilizing a global application, an application gateway is more of a regional type service. You'd have to put multiple application gateways probably in place to perform the type of routing that an Azure Front Door could do. And finally, the last thing to kind of cover real quick is the express route. And the express route is really utilized for that connectivity, transport level connectivity between your on-premises networks and your on-premises environment to provide a direct connection to Azure resources. If you're utilizing, a line of business application like an ERP or SAP HANA type database, you really should utilize express route connections. If you have, those point-to-site type connections of users, located around the world, that's not important to have an express route. You can utilize, site-to-site VPNs or point-to-site connectivity into Azure environments there for branch offices and things like that. But this is really like for your headquarters location where you might have a data center type environment, and utilize that private connection so that you have create that flat network with a private connection rather than it going across the internet per se, in terms of with an IPsec type link. Generally, you're going to have probably still a site-to-site VPN in place with a VPN gateway for potential branch offices, as well as a secondary tunnel to your on-premises data center for non-critical traffic, as well, to avoid getting bogged down with sending all your traffic across an express route. You can do that as well as backup, provide a different route and different connectivity capabilities in case for some reason there's a connectivity failure. So let's real quick look at network security groups. Not going to spend a whole lot of time on it. Like I said, I've done an episode on network security groups in the past in a different YouTube series, but let's take a quick look and just look at these default rules real quick within network security groups. So I'm in my Azure portal here, and we're going to, all right, so let me go into my resource group here and find my network security group. And here it is. Here's my NSG. So key point here to point out is as the priority number decreases, that's the higher level of priority. So we can look here and see that at default, we have deny inbound, deny outbound across the board. And then for the different inbound rules, we're allowing load balancers inbound from any destination. We're allowing virtual network to virtual network. And this is why this ultimately shows why we don't have to create specific rules when we do a virtual network peering or if we create a load balancer to allow the public to access our load balancer when it gets into our environment and sends that directly, sends that information to a virtual machine that's connected to that load balancer on the back end. So those are in place, and like I said, if we don't have virtual network peering, this rule doesn't really apply, but this is an internal routing, so we're not really worried about this exposing us and creating a kind of vulnerability or threat within our environment. Same thing with load balancer. If I don't put a load balancer in place, I am still denying traffic from the internet into my environment. Outbound rules, again, denying any all. Virtual network to virtual network, again, inbound and outbound are allowed. And then the other thing is outbound to the internet from anything within Azure is allowed. So our outbound rules allow us to connect to the internet and get to resources on the internet by default. If we wanted to create a new rule, we go into our inbound security rules, and we can then add those here. And again, you can see here, application security groups are in here. We can set specific IP addresses, service tags. We can set up our destination to specific IP addresses or specific ports here. If we wanted to create a RDP rule, we can do that. And you can see immediately it says my RDP port is exposed to the internet, and it flags me right away that this is not recommended and not something I want to do. So I'm not going to do that right now, but this is how easy it is to create those rules within a network security group and understand how those connections are going to flow. If you have a problem with a connection from an IP address, you could go in and specify that IP address, allow the inbound traffic to make sure you've got your connectivity set up properly and things of that nature. Just make sure that you're lower than that 65,000 number as far as your priority, so that then takes place and that is properly created to have higher priority than the default rules that are mostly denying traffic. And that's really all I wanted to kind of show within this particular episode to understand how helpful network security groups can be to help you with routing your traffic at a high level, as well as just hit on some of the high key network security features and services within the Azure environment that can help you with traffic. Again, this is widely reviewed from my previous Breaking Down the Networking Change series, so feel free to go back and review that, as well as follow me on the social media links provided on the slide, as well as follow my and subscribe to my YouTube channel for any upcoming and future episodes. Thank you very much, and have a great day.